Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Super excited for my next guest. His name is Mando Hernandez. Mando is a Brooklyn-based real estate investor with over 25 years of experience. He was inspired by his immigrant mother's entrepreneurial mindset. Mando began building a diverse portfolio that includes properties in New Jersey, Florida, and even assets in Costa Rica. Today, Mando focuses on creative financing strategies like Subject 2 and is deeply committed to solving housing affordability through co-living models and mentorship. Mando, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Bro, I love the intro. Thank you so much for having me, man. Thank you again.
You got it. So tell me what's going on. You've been super busy, obviously working on a bunch of different projects. What are you focusing on right now?
The co-living. Co-living is such a need, right? Such an affordability crisis going around the country. Life has become so expensive, right? The economy is not helping. Salaries are not matching the cost of inflation. There's so many reasons that co-living, the rent-by-room model kind of works. I've kind of done some of that stuff locally here in New Jersey in some of my properties. I just never had a title to it, right? It was never kind of branded, let's say. So it's something that I've kind of done without knowing what it was. But now being in the proximity of PACE in this community, it just gives you a sense of clarity and where direction markets are shifting. And it's like I said, it's a mission. It's more that to help people out in a position where they're kind of boxed out of the economy. They can't get an affordable house because interest rates are so crazy, right?
Yeah.
Get a decent apartment in a decent neighborhood where they can walk at night, let's say, right? All these things, all these factors are difficult. You work service jobs, service jobs pay so much, right? And you could be there 20 years and the pay scale be the same 20 years later, right? So
yeah, it's true.
Right? You work in a super center or a ballpark, the salary is what's going to be the salary. So there's got to be a way that we can help people get affordable housing. The government, are they going to solve these issues? I doubt it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of upon the people, the investor community, to be able to kind of leave an imprint and be able to solve some of these issues.
Yeah, I really agree. And before we move on, your camera's shaking quite a bit. I don't know if you're touching your desk.
I'll get off my desk.
But it's bouncing around a little bit.
I'll get off the desk.
It is a huge issue. I agree with you. Co-living is one of those models I think that can definitely appeal to a certain segment of people who rent, right? Because it's not for everyone. If someone who has a family, co-living probably wouldn't work, right? So who are the target demographic for someone who would like to live in a co-living situation?
It's
and describe to me how that works, right? What a co-living environment is like.
It's the workforce people, the kind of the service jobs, like I said, people who work in ballparks, super centers. Let's say a salary between $30,000 and $60,000. Single people, like I said, transient people are more single or not having families, let's say. So it's kind of catered to a specified audience, let's say.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm niched in, is kind of that workforce profile next to super centers, ballparks, hospitals, places where in main metros that people can't afford to live, right? In main center of metros, let's say New York City, Atlanta, Dallas, it's very expensive. So kind of be able to provide housing in the metros as well, where I can actually get some appreciation on a property, and also kind of provide a place where people are close to where their employer is as well. So it's kind of a win-win for me. Get a property in the metros where, again, these are phantom numbers, right? Appreciation and stuff like that. It's fake, ghost money, but be in a proximity where I, as an investor, can profit over the long term and someone I can provide housing for as well, right? So I've partnered with some properties in Atlanta, but I have another model that I'm also interested. I went to Squad Up Summit and I went a day early, and I built a relationship with a builder, and we went to see a ground up project in Dallas. And this project was 14 bedrooms with 14 bathrooms. So it was seven units in the bottom, and it's 7 units on top. So it was a 2-floor, 2-story, and it was specified built for co-living. So everyone gets a private bathroom, right? Which I think is super important. Benson, imagine you're in this situation, right? And you're struggling for whatever reason, and man, you had a hard day's work, and you get to your crib, and there's 8 people living in there, and there's 2 bathrooms, and you want to take a shower, and everyone, the bathroom's occupied. You're like, damn, what's going on here? I can't even get comfortable at home. Let's say at home,
Right.
somebody bombed their bathroom, right? It's a real life things. It's not your kids, it's not your parents. You'd be like, yo, what is going on here, right? All these little factors that we might not take into account, right? But you have to kind of step into people's shoes sometimes to see how they live and what conditions they're living, right? So I went to see this builder. I was super intrigued by that model, having individual private bathrooms, and provides you that sense of privacy, right? I think it's a different feel. And I think it also helps in retention, right? If you had somewhere, a nook that you can call home, I think it makes a difference, right? That's just me anticipating and trying to step in people's shoes and how they're living. Obviously, listen, if you have to share a bathroom, by all means, that's what you have to do, right? But I also know there may be an alternative where you can get a sense of privacy and still live on the confines of a home, let's say. So that's something I'm exploring as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach. I see some challenges there, though, with financing potentially, right? Because how do you go to a bank and explain the business model to a traditional banker? And they're thinking, okay, well, how do you give a value to a piece of property like that, right?
Sure.
Is that one of the challenges?
There can be, but there's some strategies that you do build it out more kind of traditionally. You don't, so there's rooms that are open-ended. So it's not per se a 7-7 or 14-14. There's rooms that are kept open, like dens and stuff. So when you go refinance, you kind of finance it traditionally, right? So after you kind of close, you can then put up the walls on the remaining units, right? So there's places that have 6-6s. So a more traditional ranch style house where you have still open walls, but kind of all the fixtures are ready prepared. When you want, after you get financing, you can kind of close up the walls after the fact, right?
Oh, okay, so it isn't built with 14 units to start. You do some of that conversion after the closing, the original closing.
Sure, after the fact. So those are ways that you kind of approach the lending system as well, because you have to deal with lending as well, right? So you have to know how to position yourself the best way possible.
So, but traditionally, co-living has been, okay, we find a house in a traditional neighborhood. Maybe it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-story home. And for those listening who don't know what co-living is, you go in and you start putting up walls, right? You put up walls to add additional bedrooms to the place, maybe a bathroom too. Usually it's just bedrooms. The bathrooms are typically pretty. What you have is what you got. And those rooms are going into places where you might have some of this space for people to collect, right? So like family rooms, living rooms, dens are converted. And so you lose some of that space where people get together. But you mentioned in this new model, you want some of those places where people can hang out, because that's what builds community, right? That's part of what helps with retention. Is it's not just a place to sleep. Like there are others there who are going through some of the same things that you're going through in your life.
Absolutely. So that's very important that you mentioned that, right? Because sometimes you don't want to be isolated, right? Sometimes isolation is just the beginning of the way downhill, right? And especially when you start struggling, you start to contract, right? So you don't want to be in that position as well. So you have to be mindful of the common areas, right? How do you kind of strategically keep an open-ended kitchen with enough seating for people to congregate and kind of create sort of a culture, right? And I think that's upon you, that coming on, that you want to have harmony and you want to be able to create a sense of culture when people are kind of strangers as well. So there's a methodology to that, and I think you have to create that from the onset, right? You have to tell, when you onboard people, this is what the expectations are, and if you're not the right fit for it, then you're not the right fit to be here, right? There's other opportunities for you, but this night might be for you, right? So
Right.
that is very important, right? That sense of community that you can expand and grow as well. I've thought about even the smaller things, right? The art that you place in a room, right? To be inspiring, little things like that you might not make sense of, but that if you see something every day, like you take notes and you stick them on your refrigerator, and something that you want to accomplish and you see it every day, man, I got to get to it, right? So I conceptually think of things like that, even artwork, to provide a sense of inspiration, and you don't even know it, right? So the little things that kind of matter, right? The God is in the details, I say. And yeah, absolutely, that culture, that sense of community is very important, very important. Because again, a lot of these people might be isolated, right? For whatever situations, you want to be able to open them up somewhat and carry them to the next journey as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that the way you set that place up has a lot to do with retention. And it's supposed to be furnished, right? When you do a co-living environment, you're putting in beds, places for them to put their clothes. You're going to have utensils in the kitchen and an air fryer and a fridge, and so it's supposed to be 100% furnished, right?
Yes, you are going to furnish these rooms, so you have to be mindful how you want to furnish them. To this co-living I went to, they had like I said, they had 2 refrigerators, but they also then had mini fridges in each room. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. Energy costs, people leave. They leave stuff in the refrigerator, it goes bad. You have someone to take care, you have to clean it. So those are little things that you have to be mindful of. Having a mirror in each room is very important, right? Let's say if you have a house that is only have 2 bathrooms or 3 bathrooms, and you kind of share in those bathrooms, you kind of want to be able to get people to expedite it out of that space. So like mirrors in each room is very important, so people can just take care of their own thing in their own room. A fan sometimes very important. Temperature control is very important. So you have to have a nest, right? Something automated where you can just put in a little box, a little cage, and maybe even paint it over sometimes, just so people don't even see the temperature, right? And kind of have just like a general temperature as well. Little things like that, all that stuff matters. But yeah, having the places furnished is absolutely important. Even the cabinetry in the kitchen, right? You even think about cabinetry. You put traditional cabinetry. Maybe you should put the big elongated cabinets that go all the way to the ceiling, right? Just to be able to maximize space as well. There's so many details when you start getting into the space that you have to be mindful of and be like, oh, check, I like this, I like that.
Yeah.
So walking different properties and being in the space, you get to kind of get the feel and hone in how you want to be able to run your properties as well, or your homes.
There's so many people that have done this before, right? And so there's probably a proven model. Is there something that you can do where you just be like, I'm going to do what this guy did. I don't have to go and figure anything out. I don't want to make any mistakes. I just want to do what the guys that make a lot of money do. Is that out there? Is there something that you can go buy or be a part of so you don't make the same mistakes that others did before you?
That's super important. It's literally, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And absolutely, in my community, I'm in Owners Club, I'm in Sub 2, Gator. There's people in the community that are ahead of us who are kind of doing these things. So you always want to be able to learn through osmosis, or be able to see what ideas are being created that people are being successful doing, right? Absolutely, that's important to be able to model someone that's actually in the space and ahead of you, let's say, and kind of has a track record to be like, okay, this is how that's super important. So that's what I try to do. I try to align myself with people are ahead of me and see what are their strategies and how is it they're running their places. Either they're doing their own management, right? They're not having onboarding like a pad split who does kind of a management, or hire a property manager on top. Because pad split, finds the members, but then you have to manage the property. So you have to make sure that when you're underwriting that you still have enough margin to be able to hire a manager. Say if you're doing something long distance like I am, I'm in New York City. I'm not doing this model here locally, so I would go down south to southeast. You have to then be mindful of that. And there's people who manage these properties long distance, which I've met some already. So those are people that I've had conversation with. And how are your processes and systems? How much time do you spend a week? How do you do this? How you, right? So I ask all questions and how they leverage the members as well. So definitely the knowledge is out there. You have to lean on people who are doing it.
So you don't know of any sort of business in a box you can buy. You're just talking about emulating others, right? And talking to people. It seems to me this is an opportunity for somebody to build a business in a box, right? And sell a license, something that's, maybe it's a community, right? Maybe it's a mentorship community that you subscribe to, but there's some stuff that's like, okay, here's your book, here's everything you do A to Z. If you could do it that way, it'll increase the chances of success. Right? I could see there's an opportunity there for somebody to build that.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with someone literally about that a couple weeks back, and it was food for thought. I was like, wow, there is a space here to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you are an entrepreneur, right? So you got a lot of different things going on, and you recently launched your own clothing brand. Tell me about that. Man,
I had this dream that was just a dream for a long time. When I got into high school, I got accepted, but I had to do an art piece, right? So I've been very artistic. I've been in the arts forever, and I got accepted into the school, right? And literally just by drawing. So that's how it's always been my space. So years and years ago, I had the idea, man, I want to launch my own brand and stuff like that. Something I always wanted to do for kicks. I just want to do it. Why not? Why not me? And I took a screen printing course. This is pre-internet, pre all that, where it was all CDs. When you had so it was a company out of Scottsdale. It was a screen printing company that I don't even remember how I found it. The white pages, yellow pages, dude, I don't even remember. But I know I got a whole bunch of CDs, and I was doing it. And I was like, man, this seems too hard, right? It seems too hard. I got to buy equipment. I got to do this. So I quit on it, right? I quit on it because I didn't know how to solve the problem to get over that hump, right? And a lot of people experience it. I'm sure people experience that. They have something they want to accomplish. They get motivated, but they don't stay dedicated. So I had that issue. And I was just mindful of that, man, that was cool. But then after joining Owners Club and Paces community, we did so much mindset work over the last year, so much personal growth, that what I discovered that I awoken a lot of these dormant dreams that I had that I wanted to turn into reality, right? And and I needed that. I needed all that insight and be able to peel all those layers of insecurities, of limited beliefs, to be able to kind of free myself of myself, right? And I call real estate, it's a journey in self-discovery through real estate, right? And being in this community, for me personally, it was a game changer. And like I said, this is one thing. So let me tell you how it started. So I started a podcast, right? And I said, my guest, whoever comes on a podcast, I'm going to give them a sweater. I'm going to do like a nice little design on the sweater. And thank you for coming on. And that's kind of a way for me to connect with you, right? Not only just have a conversation, but here's something for you, right? And that's how literally I started. And then I started just printed different designs, and all the juices started flowing. I had different ideas, and then I still didn't know how to do this. Like how do I do this? So, but like Pace says, the magic is in the work you avoid, right? So I was doing the work, and I discovered the magic. So the universe started connecting all these dots for me, right? Because sometimes we live in the how, right? How do I do this? And we forgot there's who's out there. Who can help me, right? And this for real is total mindset. I was more of the how guy. How can I do this? So I'm taking all these things on, and then all of a sudden I have all this burden. I can't figure it out. But like I said, Pace and the community was able for me to see the thing differently, the other side of the coin. So I started discovering where's my Where's my who's, right? Where's my who's? And I was able to connect that, and I created something called the investordeli.store. So it's kind of real estate based merchandise modeled after Gymshark. If you go to the gym and you pump those weights, you will see a lot of people wearing Gymshark, right? So it's kind of synonymous with the gym space. So I said, why can't I create something the same way in the investor real estate space, something that's synonymous to the space? And I say, why not me, right? So I said, I have the audacity to do it, and I just launched it in February, and it's been a struggle, right, to get something off the ground. And I had a conversation. I text someone today. I have struggles, and I love it, right? Because I know I'm going to be able to grow from these struggles and getting feedback from people to be able to now, niche down and get better, right? If you can't get feedback from something that you're trying to accomplish, have a product or service, how are you going to grow? You're not going to be successful out the gate. That's not how kind of life works. You have to take the chance to do it, right? You have to be brave to take a chance, do it, put it out there, get the feedback, go through the struggles, fight through the struggles, and come out the other side. And those problems are going to arise again, believe it or not. You're in business, you know what it is. These problems never stop. You just have to have the confidence and the audacity just to fight through them, right? To fight through them. So yeah, I brung a dream that I had. I brung it to reality. So I'm super proud of myself for that. Yeah. So now it's just now growing in and getting feedback from others to see what the people want.
So what's your goal with the brand? Is it to blow it up? Is it like revenue, or is it just a thing where you want to have, like you said, give someone a sweater to take with them? Like it's your own swag. What's the goal here?
It is a thoughtful business. Obviously, it was created as that. So I want to grow it from the community inside out. So it's kind of quality over quantity. Right? Mm-hmm. I want the brand to be a word of mouth thing that people kind of resonate to and grow it out organically within our community. So that's been the intention. And for me, it's also a way of connecting with people. I'm also interested in being in the product space. So this is kind of my first iteration into that space, and hopefully it'll open up other opportunities to get into other products. Again, once you open yourself up to opportunities, you never know where it's going to take you, right? So it's just a journey and discovery. And like I said, it's something that I wanted to accomplish, which I was able to do. And it's the way to gather information, gather data as well, be able to reach people, get them out of the social media networks. Just, hey, what happens if IG turns off or whatever, TikTok is gone, and what do you do with your business, right? You don't have a place that you bring people to where you can start, feeding people information or product or services. So it's information gathering as well.
I love it. So you're wearing one of your hats right now, right?
Yeah, this is actually my brand itself, is the Investor Deli.
Investor Deli. What's the story behind the deli portion of it?
The deli is a play on New York. I'm from New York City. So it's kind of a play on New York. It's something that kind of resonated with me, and I just made it up. I said, why not? Why not go with it? And in the podcast, I have a podcast as well. So in the podcast, in my last section, it's called The Makings of a Hero, right? So it's a play on words with the hero and the sandwiches.
Yeah.
People don't know if I don't explain it. It's like a double entendre. It's like a rap deal, like subliminal. So,
right.
I incorporated that, The Makings of a Hero, into my podcast as well. So it's, building upon little steps, just growing out organically. That you have to decode it somewhere as well.
Yeah, and that's the main thing behind a brand too. A brand isn't just a logo. It's like, what's the meaning behind the imagery, sure. Right? And so like the play on words with the deli and you being from New York, I love it. That's really creative. And so where can people get these?
Well, if you go to investordeli.store, the investordeli.store, that's where I have my brand. And like I said, cool. I have hoodies and sweaters now. I'm actually working on some stuff. Actually, what I've learned is women's products, right? We as guys, I don't know if you know, but women, they don't want to wear a boxy T-shirt, right? They want to wear something that caters to them. And sometimes you think you got something going on and you figure out, and this is back to getting feedback. Man, we should have something more catered to women, which I do. I do have that. I'm coming out with some zip up hoodies. I have over the head hoodies, but now I'm starting incorporating zip up hoodies as well. Tote bags. I got some great designs for tote bags. So I'm just tightening up the site itself, and whatever doesn't resonate, I'm pulling off the site and keeping what resonates on the site. So it's always a progress. It's always working in the business, right? Seeing what makes it better, adding new details, adding new products. So yeah, so I'm stepping away some now from the hoodies and the sweaters, because the seasons is changing, and I'm coming out with more tote bags, some shorts. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited. And my juices are always flowing. Like prior to us getting on, I just create an idea and I just jot it down for later, and I just communicate with some of my artists to create it, the imagery, and then I go from there.
I love it, man. Well, congrats on getting the brand launched. That's a huge accomplishment. I heard a story before that you felt like you're the 9 to 5. So you were in the medical space for over a decade, right? And you mentioned feeling conditioned by that 9 to 5.
For sure.
Looking back, was there a specific moment where you were feeling like, okay, this is an example of being conditioned? And was there like a moment where something just switched in your mind and you're like, okay, I need to start changing some things?
I was in healthcare for 20 plus years, right? So
Wow.
I went to restaurant school, so I learned a culinary skills. So I worked in food service, and I was there for a while. And in food service, it's heavily regulated, because these sick people, whatever, patients. So there's a lot of commissions that come and go and all that stuff. So I knew after a while, this is I didn't want to do that longer. So I kind of transferred to a place that was less restrictive on my time, because I already was investing because of my mom's background. My mom was an investor, so I already was in that space. So I understood that space, and she helped me invest in my first 2 properties. So I already had, if you read Robert Kiyosaki's book, you have one step out and you're trying to get the other leg over, right, to kind of free yourself. So I already felt that way. But let's say going to the last 5 years, that's kind of where I felt more empowered, and I knew I had to make a decision. And before my mom passed, I remember telling Mom, I'm going to be out of here in less than 5 years. And she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm out of here 5 years. So she caught a moment of hesitancy, and I was like, Mom, but you the one that taught me this, right? You're the one that kind of gave me this mindset. And then she kind of caught herself. She was like, oh, okay, I get it. So, and that's what I did. So for the last 5 years, I worked on reconditioning myself. And first you got to know yourself to be able to make these changes, right? You got to analyze yourself and be truthful about yourself to make changes. If not, you're just going to go on your day, blissfully happy, whatever. So I said, how do I do this, bro? How do I figure this out? And I literally started by taking on my train rides. Literally, it started there. Because when you're in the rat race, you don't know you're in the rat race, right? So I used to take this train, the L train here in New York City, and the L train divides in the last stop. It goes this way and this way. So when it goes this way, people migrate to this side where the doors open, right? And you go up the stairs, you run up the stairs to your next stop or wherever you got to go. And I was one of those people. And I recognized that I have to stop doing that first. This is the first action I'm going to do. And what I told myself is like, dude, you're going to be the last person that leaves this cart every morning. And the only person that's going to remain in this cart is going to be a police officer or a homeless person. Other than that, you're going to be the last person to walk out of this cart. And that's what I did. I literally started doing that. And that was that first iteration of me kind of reconditioning myself. You're going to get away from this stuff. You're going to get away from this. And I started to realize I would go up the stairs and then walk and go to the next connection, the next subway. And the same people that I saw coming on, running to the next stop were there. So I was like, wow. I took a step back and I realized, wow, that was me as well. So it's kind of taking control of your life again, right? Without even knowing it. And that's what I did. And then another step I did, I said, I got to now separate myself from the pack, from the people that I hang around and conversate with, that locker room talk, that water cooler talk. It's not making any sense any longer. We're talking about supervising or approving your time off, the vacation time, all this nonsense that I needed to clear myself. What I did in the winter times, I would go to the library and sit by myself, read, listen to podcasts, and just separate myself from the pack, right? And in the summer times, I worked 2 blocks from Central Park. I will go to Central Park. Again, listen to podcasts, read books, or just be in my own space, right? Literally, and that's kind of how it started. And I would just build upon that. I would build upon that to be able to recondition myself to get out of there. And then I got myself out the rat race February 25th of 2020. And that was a special day. February 25th was my mom's birthday. My mom had already passed in 2017. So it was an homage to honor her as well. So I kind of dedicated that moment to her. So I resigned on that day, and I got married on that day as well.
Wow. That is huge.
Yeah, and that was a way of me kind of memorializing her and honoring her. So it literally happened that way because I had the plan to leave my job May the year before on Mother's Day, but it wasn't panning out, and it worked out that I left on my birthday. I'm on her birthday.
That's so cool.
And I also when I released the merch shop, I released it this February 25th as well.
Wow. Yeah. So every year you're going to have to do something big on that day, right? Just to live up to the first time you did it.
It's part of the story. It's part of the story that I kind of built out without not. I kind of knew it because I wanted to honor her in that way, but it's become a story as well.
Yeah.
That I can always build upon, right? And just build upon that moment. And it's part of my story.
I love it. So your mom was obviously very influential in your life, inspirational, influential. Was there any sort of message from her early on that you remember that kind of solidified who she was as an inspiration?
Bro, I have so many lessons I learned from a young guy. She was an immigrant, so she had a different spirit being an immigrant. They just have a different mindset. I'm not saying all of them do, but the ones who do, they do. You can recognize it. She was one of those. She was very trendy, always very curious, wanted to see the new things to do, whatever. Again, so I saw it. I saw it through observation, and I can just stick to a moment. This was later on. I was an adult already, where my connection with her solidified to another level. I was also in nursing school, so I wanted to be a nurse as well. And I got accepted to a really prestigious school in New York City, Beth Israel School of Nursing. It's a private school, so it was hard to get in. And I dropped out in the 9th grade. I dropped out early in the game, but I was always very smart. It was just high school. I had issues in high school. I came from a Catholic school setting. I went to a public school setting, and it was just like the Bronx Zoo of high schools. And you had all this time free, and I lost my bearings. I kind of lost, and I was just free-willed, and literally I was not going to school. So I missed out on a lot of education, but I had a great foundation being in Catholic school, right? So that foundation was what carried me, even though there was some missteps. So I fought my way, dude, to get back in college, right? Had to get my prerequisites. I fought my way in there, right? I stopped drinking, whatever I was doing, little habits I had, I put them all to the side. I said, I'm focusing on this, and this is my new life. And I got in, and I got in the first year. I got in towards the end of the first year. I struggled. I failed I failed this class, and I got an opportunity to take the test. Let me start before that. So I got accepted into school, right? Mm-hmm. So I go in. I had to take an entry exam, and this is what the connection solidified with my mom. The first person I called was her, right? I got out and I got accepted, man. Dude, I was so pumped. Like, when you do something, you accomplish something, and you work towards it, and you get that sensation, man, I did something, right? That only you can recognize, right? So I was like, man, I did this. I can't believe it, man. It paid off, right? And I called her. I said, Mom, I got accepted. Dude, she screamed so loud over the phone. It was like I won the World Cup or the Super Bowl or the Oscar. It was just an incredible moment that me and her shared. And that energy that was translated over the conversation, I will never forget. and I still chase it to this moment, right? She is actually my why. The reason why when I go through struggles now, I fight through and I don't quit. It's to make her proud, right? Any little accomplishment, I tell Mom, look at what I did, right? And I just relive that moment again, right? So I stay in that space. Mom, this is what I did. I hope you're proud of me. And I just remember that moment, right? Reconnecting to that place and that time that we shared. And that's kind of what drives me. Literally, a moment in time is what drives me.
Wow. That's such a powerful story. And so that's what happened when you got in, and then you struggled a little bit.
Dude.
That first year, you said you didn't pass that class, but did you end up with your nursing degree?
No, let me tell you what happened. So it was a struggle. So it was a private school, and private schools, they have a different grading system. It's a little higher, right? I passing, I believe it was a 77, and I took these 2 exams. They gave me two mulligans, I say, to take it, and I got 75s on both of them. And I flunked out, dude. I flunked out, and I just flunked out. But if I went to a CUNY school, passing was a 73 in a regular city school. So I'm like, damn, this is crazy. I went to a private school, I flunked with a 75. But if I went to a regular city school, I would have passed, right? But then I figured out, you know what? God didn't want me to go that way, right? So when I flunked out, I know one of my professors was like, dude, man, what happened? What were you doing? Did you study enough? So I kind of had to stop him. I said, dude, let me tell you something. There's no one in this school that has studied more than me. Nobody. I told him, dude, my fiance, my wife now, she set up a birthday surprise with me. I'm in the club. There's pool tables. I'm playing music. All my friends were there. I had index cards sitting down, going over my notes while we're celebrating my birthday. That's how focused I was. On weekends, on Saturdays, there was workshops. I would go every Saturday and do the workshops. I said, dude, I gave my best foot forward. I have no regrets. I gave it all I had. I wasn't cut out for it. I didn't make the cut. So I had no regrets, dude. I had no regrets. But what good came out of it, my wife was inspired that I went back to school. So she was my fiance at that time. And she was inspired that I went back to school, and it re-energized her, and I fed her as well, and she became a nurse, right? So I think that was the path. The path was like, you continuing what you're doing in real estate, what your original path has been, and what you're gonna create without knowing is an opportunity for your wife that you're gonna motivate her without knowing, and she's gonna be the one that becomes a nurse.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it worked out. And I had no regrets. I flunked out. A week later, we're in South Beach having fun. She was more Debbie Downer than I was. I was good, to be honest with you. Again, I just put so much into it that I had no regret. I gave it all. You give all you have, and it just you don't make the cut. You don't make the cut. It's not like you say, oh man, I didn't put my best foot forward. I didn't do my best. Then you might have some trepidation, like, damn, man, I should have did better. Not me. I didn't have that. And again, that was not the path for me. My path was continuing, was already doing.
Right.
But what I did, I took so many skills, right? I took so many of these skills that I learned, right? Because you learn so much technical skills, let's say in nursing school, that can translate into your life. As like I said, in culinary school, when I went to, there's so many skills that I still translate to this day. The attention to detail. There's this thing called mise en place, everything in its place, right? So all the education that you go through, these are lessons, these are things that you have in your tool bag, and all you gotta do is pull it out and utilize it.
So when you decided to leave your W-2, it was February 25th, right? You chose that date, you left, you jumped full into real estate at that point. So what are you doing in the real estate space to generate income? Is it all passive through like your rental properties? Do you have any active income like buying and selling, flipping, wholesaling? How do you generate revenue today?
I've had, like I said, I've been in the game for so long, and I bought these properties retail since 2000. I've been buying properties. So my properties, I've had them for 20 plus years, right?
Wow.
So these properties I've had forever. So I was able to leverage my income. That's kind of when I left in 2020. I said, I'm super good. I replaced my salary and more, right? So you got to know how financially your budget is, right? And I'm not very frugal at all. So I'm very mindful, again, to these skill sets that I learned from my mom. So I'm very frugal, so I don't have expenditures that I live a lifestyle that, it's too flashy. That's just not me. So I already, like I said, my portfolio has so much leverage that I knew I could literally afford to leave from the quality of my portfolio. It wasn't even the quantity, it was just the quality of my portfolio that I knew I was able to leave. So now what I'm stepping out to is actually stepping out to and maybe start doing some flipping as well. So I've been fostering some relationships in Dallas, and that's where we went to Squat Up Now. So I have this relationship that I'm fostering with some contractors, some fix and flippers, some people in that space to be able to kind of step into that world, building relationships in that market. That's one of my markets, meeting realtors. So really digging that well before you get thirsty. The saying is, that's kind of what I'm working on now. And also lending. So I've been a lender kind of my whole adult life, going back to my mom. My mom was a lender. She would hustle. My mom would sell clothes and sell perfume and all that. So that's why you see this little thing. You want to create a merch line, because she was doing it since I was a child. She would, like I said, she would go to downtown here. I'm in New York City, right? In the center of the world. So she would go to these wholesalers and buy colognes and stuff, and clothes and purses and wallets. And she would sell them at work. So literally, and then she would lend money as well. People need a couple extra dollars to extend it to the next day or the next week, pays people's whatever tuition for the months, little things like that. That's kind of what I picked up as well. And so I kind of lend without knowing it, that it was a kind of an official thing you could do. So my first entry in the community was being a gator. Because I saw, before that, I joined astro flipping in 2020 when I left my job. But I realized that was not my niche. That's something making calls, being on the phone, and following up, that's something that I just was not going to do. It's just not me. And then this guy, Pace Morby, kept on coming up on my algorithms on my phone. I was like, who's this guy with the hat? And I kept on swiping him. Who's this guy with the hat? One day I decided let's see who this guy is, bro. So it was a Gator. He was doing a Gator webinar. So I, talk about money. And I was like, all right, you're talking my language. Let me press. Signed in, whatever, registered, and then whenever that day was, he's talking about you lend money and you do this. He got into I was like, what? You could do this professionally? Like, this is something you can really do? I was like, no way. I was like, damn, I've been doing this forever. So I was like, man, I got to sign up for this. So my entry in the community was being a Gator, right? But when I became a Gator, I also got into a deal from hell, which I'm still dealing with now here in the tri-state area. So I made a terrible, terrible investment with someone that I thought was a reputable investor, and I invested tons and tons of money. So I'm actually in litigation now. So what happened during the Gator journey, I decided to kind of fall back because I was dealing with a real situation, what I'm still dealing with now. And I was like, damn, now I'm shy, now I'm gun shy. Do I want to lend money? Do I want to play this game? So I kind of fell back for a while. I was like, this is not, I got to be careful. So what I decided to do, I said, all right, if I'm going to get back into this space, I'm not going to play with my own money, right? So I decided this is not going to be the strategy. So I've delved into kind of getting, leveraging other people's money, like business credit. So that's kind of, actually, this morning, I went to visit 3 banks and applied for some business credit, because that's kind of the space that I'm living in now, to create income as well. So now I was literally playing with other people's money. So what I've been doing for the last 8 months is applying for different cards. So I have tons of cards. I'm pushing probably about 200 grand now in access to capital. And my next step that I'm going to do real soon, that I've been fostering, again, relationships with people in that space, is to then deploy this money as well. So it's kind of digging in that well, having foresight. Okay, this is what I want to do, right? But you got to connect with the right people, right? These people resonate with me. These people are doing good business, right? And getting great feedback from other people doing business with them as well. all right, let me dig into these relationships. And like I said, and now the next step is ready to deploy some of this capital to be able to get another sense of returns. Again, not playing with my own money because of the circumstances that unfortunately, I'm in.
Right. So it's an arbitrage game, right? Because if you're borrowing from a bank, you're going to have some sort of interest you're paying them. But if it's a hard money loan, you can get 12 to 15%, right? Which hopefully is high enough for it to be worth your time. Is that the game that you're putting together now?
For sure, it has to all pencil in, right? Because you got to know how do you lend in and what opportunities are out there for sure, right? Because you're leveraging other people's money, and some of that money you got to keep back. Let's say if you're leveraging credit, like business credit, because you don't want to pay those payments out of pocket. So let's say you have $100,000 in credit, you're going to deploy, let's say 80, and you keep 20 to pay those accounts down, let's say, right? So you don't get stuck in a situation where you be like, oh man, this went bad, right? So you also have some safety levers involved as well. So it's kind of a dance, right? You gotta know how to deploy, what type of returns are you gonna get back. I'm not doing annualized returns. I'm not doing no flat rates. I want to get returns on a monthly basis. So it's kind of like I said, this is kind of what I'm stepping into now. So I built some great relationships with some people, and I'm excited to step into that world now. That's my next step.
And what about on the real estate front? Are you going to go buy? Are you going to do a ground up construction, co-living, or are you writing offers on existing co-living type properties that you can convert? What's like the daily thing that you're working on?
I partnered on 3 properties in Atlanta. Those co-livings. Now, like I said, now I'm just digging in and listening to offers, getting offers, and underwriting on a daily basis. That flow. Deal flow is always the most important, I think, piece of the game. So you always have to be in communication, following up with people, making sure you stay present in people's minds. I just had a guy just hit me up with a property that I've been, again, just always following up. And he just hit me up now. He has a property in Charlotte that he wants to offload. And I say, hey, we'll take a look at it, right? If the numbers make sense, it makes sense. He kind of struggled with it. I wanted to know some of the background. Why is he selling, right? Because you want to know why you're selling. And he kind of went head first without having systems and processes in it. He just did it. He did the action. And then he struggled on the back end because he didn't know how to run it. So I know where his pain points are at. It's because he didn't literally know how to operate. He was just a bad operator. Again, just inexperience. He just probably wanted to do it. And now he's kind of wants to offload it. So now we're going to take a look at it and see if it makes sense, if there's something there that we may move forward on. So it's communication like that, outreach and writing deals. We write deals, 3-4 times a week that we get together. We record it, and I'll upload it into my YouTube page as well. Because again, this is a game of the social media game. You want to be present in people's minds. You want to be an authority, right? You want to raise capital and stuff like that. You got to be present for people, or people to see what you're showing your work, right? So that's what I do when we underwrite. So we underwrite, have a partner, and we underwrite twice a week, and we upload these videos into our YouTube pages, and we also upload our videos into Fractional. Fractional is a platform where people can invest as a group, right? So that's kind of where I'm also utilizing to be able to raise capital, is using the Fractional, leveraging that community. So I post my videos in there as well. You just to be active in spaces, show people what you're doing, right? You're gonna knock on doors, and you're gonna get a no most of the time, right? But you have to do that work. This is a no game, no deal until you get your deal, right? So all those no's is to get you to that yes, literally.
I love it. Well, no matter what you decide to do, I think you're going to have success, Mando. Like, you've definitely proven that you can, run with the business, and you've done it all throughout your career.
I was born for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you probably some people here that want to either like check out your podcast or check out your brand, maybe invest with you. How can people find you?
My merch store is investordeli.store. My YouTube page is Investor Deli on YouTube, Investor Deli. And then my IG is Manifesting Mando. So that's how you can reach out to me, Manifesting Mando on IG. Investor Deli on YouTube, and investordeli.store is my brand.
Amazing. Well, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed this time with you, learning more about your backstory and all the things that you've done, coming up. Thank you for taking the time, sharing your story with our audience.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And again, back to building connections. You were very thoughtful to kind of remember me and say, hey, let's get Mando on. And that's, again, back to that relationship building aspect, right? This is kind
100%.
of a people business. And if we didn't have made a connection, you wouldn't have remembered me, right?
100%. Yeah, there's so many good relationships that's come out of the Sub 2 and Owners Club communities. So many good people there. 100%. Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Keep an eye out for more amazing guests like Mando, where we talk about real estate investing, entrepreneurship, achieving success. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.